chest.
42 chest, right?
Something like a 42 chest.
That's quite good, isn't it?
And then I look at your jacket waist, and I think that might be around 42 as well.
42 for the waist? I'm solid. I am solid.
You are solid. You are a 47 chest.
No.
Hand on my heart, 47.
47?
47.
Right.
And so your waist, it's obviously highly confidential, the measurements.
You can whisper to me.
I think comfortably that's probably 40.
Look, I'm a Marks and Spencer 38. Anyway, I'm meant to be 38.
James, I'm afraid, got the measure of me, but I decided it didn't quite suit me, I mean. But whatever sort of garment you needed, Leeds catered for all, and textiles allowed the city to flourish. At the end of the 18th century, the number of mills increased sevenfold, and within 50 years, the population had trebled. Today, fashionable flats have taken over the old warehouses. The canal brought new thinking, encouraging trade in both directions. Yorkshire's industrialists could see immediately the advantages of bringing raw materials in and sending their textiles out. They developed an industrial corridor running across the Pennines, siting their giant factories beside the canal. A Bradford wool magnate built one of the biggest, 25 miles outside Leeds. It was Saltaire, where 3,000 people worked for Sir Titus Salt. He remains a controversial figure. At a work's fate, he looked down on his employees patronisingly.
I like to see you about me, to look upon your pleasant and cheerful faces. I hope you all enjoy yourselves and go home safely without accident after your day's pleasure. I wish happiness, health and prosperity to you all.
But Sir Titus didn't just build a factory, he built a town by the canal to house his workers. But nowadays, should we look up to him, or was he plain old-fashioned? 96-year-old Frank Sr. grew up in one of the houses.
How very nice to see you.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah.
He started work in the mill when he was 14.
When Saltaire started and it was built up, everything was provided. So you had houses here, you had your work here. This was the company town, wasn't it? Good or bad?
I still subscribe to the fact that he did a world of good, but there are others who point out that he had a captive workforce.
Yes.
And that seemed to rile a lot of people.
You either worked at the mill or you'd had it. How much was it important that the canal should go right the way through the mill, as we can see here?
Very important. How else could you transport bales of wool from Liverpool to the West Riding of Yorkshire? It was a lifeline.
Yes.
I used to watch barges arrive with several tons of coal. To watch two men unload that in one working day, it was hard work.
What sort of people were they?
Just navvies. In the main, they were no different to any ordinary man in the street.
So some of them were skinny, some of them were...
That's right.
Say what you like about those Victorian entrepreneurs, they certainly knew how to grasp an opportunity. The wool that came up the canal to Saltaire was not from Yorkshire. It was from South America. Saltaire was known for manufacturing clothes from alpaca wool. James Roberts is an alpaca farmer. His ancestors took over Saltaire not long after Sir Titus died. Now he returns to the bandstand, built by Sir Titus, to show us just how much wool you can get from these strange-looking animals.
Hello, James.
Hello.
Well, you brought your lovely alpacas, aren't they?
They're fantastic, aren't they?
Yeah, they look just terrific, don't they?
The whole wealth of Saltaire was based on alpaca wool.
They were living in South America.
That's right, they were sheared over there and they actually just imported the wool. Obviously, it's great that nowadays we have them living here in the country.
And how friendly are they?
I wouldn't say that they're real sort of people animals. They're a little bit skittish and a bit shy, but they don't mind being stroked.
All right, OK, well, there we are. Whoops.
Deciding to use alpaca wool was Salt's great breakthrough. At the time, this wool was mainly used as packing material in ships. He spotted that it could be made into quality clothing.
Is that saying thank you or what? There's a lot here, isn't there?
There's a lot.
If I was getting a really stylish jacket, though, made of fur, how much could it cost, well, from this amount of material?
Anywhere from £300 to £1,000. The sky's the limit.
There we go.
Oh, that's lovely.
Looks a bit like Bambi now, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, that's lovely. You look really good, and I forgive you for that spitting earlier. Yeah, honestly. Anyone might want to spit at me, I quite understand that.
Alpacas may not be man's best friend, but their wool made very good garments, which would be put onto the canal boats to head off to Liverpool. It may look peaceful now, but back then this would have been a busy highway for boats making their way to the Liverpool docks. But the Foul Ridge Tunnel presented a problem. It was dug through such difficult rock that it would have been too expensive to construct a towpath for a horse. So once inside the tunnel, men had to lie on their backs and use their legs against the walls to leg the boat through. And once you were through the tunnel, you weren't even halfway to Liverpool. It was a tough life. Days were long and the work arduous. Luckily for me, it's now a quiet spot to settle down for the night. I'm near Foul Ridge in Lancashire, up in the Pennines, and I'm nearly halfway through the 127-mile journey from Leeds to Liverpool along the canal. You have to be sociable on the canal. It's time to make myself respectable and head out to meet the neighbours.
Morning. Morning. Right, so what sort of trip have you had?
Oh, we've had a bit of a nightmare, actually. Picked a tyre up onto my prop.
A tyre?
A tyre, yeah.
You got a little bit downhearted, didn't you? A little bit.
At one point, I never thought I'd get it off.
David and Denise Schofield get underway, and I arrange to join up with them later to tackle the Barrowford locks. There are 44 locks carrying the canal high over the Pennines and linking the West Riding of Yorkshire to the Mersey docks, and from there out to the world. These locks at Barrowford are about 500 feet up, the highest point. We soon catch up with David and Denise, and it's time for a little light rivalry.
Are you all right? Okay. Quite a snug fit, isn't it? It's a bit of a competition, isn't it, Denise? You and me. Right, here we go. I'm ahead now. Okay, I think I'm winning.
Crossing the Pennines proved difficult, and the canal took more than 40 years to build. But you can see why. It's Britain's longest single canal and requires dozens of locks, 8 aqueducts, a long embankment, and over 1¼ miles of tunnel.
You're ahead of me again. I was just a tiny bit behind. I'm going to win this time.
No.
Right, how many more?
This is it. The last
This is
one.
it?
Yeah.
7 of these locks. What a business, isn't it? God.
But the canal over the Pennines was a great success. And with the coal, textile and cotton industries along its banks, it was one of the few canals that could compete with the railways. Cargo boats were still working here well into the 20th century. And there are still a few left today.
This is a big one, isn't it? What are they doing? That's more what they would have looked like in the old days. That would have been a proper working barge coming down here, carrying coal, salt, grain, and those were the boats that would fly through the canals. They'd be worked 24 hours a day just so they could get quickly with their cargo where they had to be.
They were called flyboats.
Morning. Have you caught anything? Few roach. Only small ones?
Yeah, small ones.
Well, you've got quite a bit of the day left. We started in Leeds, we went through Saltaire, Keighley, all industrial areas, and we're now coming into Burnley. But what's great about this canal is the way it's changing. It's not a question of the old industries, people putting up with the grim necessity of the canal. No, it's now part of the leisure industry. People are not looking away from the canal, putting up with it. They're looking towards the canal and enjoying it. It's terrific. That's a nice veranda you've got.
Canals changed the map of Britain. They were the motorways of the age. Now it was easy to transport goods in bulk across the country. For the first time, towns like Burnley could become home to new industries. 16 miles later, I'm stopping at Blackburn at a canal-side factory where Ian Brown is acutely aware of the canal's importance.
Right, so you've been on this site for ages, haven't you?
Yeah, we're on both sides of the canal here. 1946, my grandfather, Harold and Henry, started the business.
What's nice is that you're making something of the canal.
Absolutely. I mean, the canal, it's more than just a stretch of waterway. This symbolises here in Blackburn the Industrial Revolution. This is what put the grate into Great Britain. We brought in raw materials, we made raw products, and we sold that to the rest of the world.
Not everyone was made rich as a result, but there was more money to go round, and people started to spend on all sorts of things for the home, including wallpaper. Everybody could now brighten up their parlours.
OK, well, it looks OK to me.
Looks all right to me too.
Because these big things, I mean, this would have been just the kind of, you need a canal to go on, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are bulky items, both shipping in and shipping out, so traditionally they would have been moved on the canal.
Right. But it stems from that amazing period after the Industrial Revolution, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Industrial Revolution could only happen because of the canal. That's its greatest legacy.
Yeah, and you're right alongside
Absolutely.
the canal. That's what's so nice.
You could carry 30 tons of wallpaper on just one canal barge. All along this stretch there were coal mines, cotton mills, foundries and ironworks. It's the last leg of my journey, which started in Leeds, a 40-mile run until I finally arrive in the docks of what became one of the greatest ports in the world. At Liverpool, huge ships waited, ready to carry Yorkshire's manufactured goods around the world. Danny O'Dear has been a skipper on the Liverpool docks for 25 years.
Danny.
Hi, John.
And what's this great building?
This is the tobacco warehouse. This is the largest brick warehouse in the world.
So it's now derelict, but what are they going to turn it into?
They're trying to develop it so it looks something like this. Apartments. The waterfront now in Liverpool is just out of this world. It's fabulous. The city's changed now.
I had my first job in Liverpool as a cub reporter on the Daily Post and Echo, and the waterfront didn't look like this.
So we're going into Albert Dock now.
Albert Dock.
Yeah, and I remember when it was gloomy and horrible.
Dirty.
For me, coming back here after 50 years, the smartening up of Liverpool's waterfront is quite remarkable.
We take a lot of school children on board the boat now, primary school, and this is part of their curriculum about, you know, with the geography and the history and the waterways, the canals.
It's amazing to think what this would have been like, say, 100 years ago.
Oh, you can only imagine with the tall ships, all the cutters all tied up alongside, unloading the cotton and all the stuff that came in from America.
The city was helped in no small measure by the Leeds and Liverpool Canal.
For more than 200 years, Liverpool was one of the greatest seaports in the world. And this is our canal, the Leeds and Liverpool Canal, coming down here into the city. Can you imagine?